I am Maria Garcia de Fleury. We live in a noisy world, a soundtrack of competing conversations and commercials, a cacophony of messages that shape and reshape our attention and our desires. In a culture addicted to noise, silence is surprising and uncomfortable. This is especially true for those who belong to the millennial generation. Lent, even in the midst of noise, is a season of self-denial, a period of waiting and introspection. The practice of silence can be an active, intentional stillness that refocuses our attention on the cross and the crucified Christ. Silence and stillness should not be foreign concepts to the church. God speaks to us in the stillness. The prophet Elijah on Mount Carmel met God not in an earthquake, nor a fire or a raging wind, but in a gentle breeze. On Mount Sinai, Moses, away from his people, only feels the presence of the Lord behind him. For the world, silence implies weakness and stillness, capitulation. A silent person, someone who refuses to participate in the exchange of noise and ideas, lacks track record, seemingly lacks power and authority. Well, this was how the Roman authorities perceived Jesus' silence. In his response to Pilate, Jesus did not make grand gestures or responses typical of a king. In the silent presence of Christ, we see that silence is a way that the Holy Spirit moves. The season of Lent moves at a different speed, the speed of silence and stillness that brings renewal. Lent is a good time to make a retreat, a time of silence. Ash Wednesday begins with a reminder that we are made of ashes. To ashes we will return. This emphasis on the fragility of humanity is made clear through the silence of Good Friday, when the Lenten movement seems to have been in vain. Only in the quiet of Easter morning is the noise of the world overcome, when the silence that was stifled by those in power emerges from the grave. During Lent, many Christians spend 40 days abstaining from some habit or voluntarily rejected some light indulgence. This often acts as a penance, a recognition that our lives are too cluttered with frivolity and excess. The habit of silence allows us to respond to the call to love our neighbor. Silence is not only the practice of being silent, but also learning habits of stillness and attention. Centuries of monastic traditions have been based and rested on the wisdom of stillness and silence. The wisdom of those who rarely speak seems to cut deeper. Silence distances us from positions of authority and power and places us in a posture of receptivity. You rarely learn something new while speaking. The habits practiced during Lent should seem foolish unless viewed through the interpretive lens of the resurrection. Listening, silence, and stillness have little meaning in a culture of noise. Habits of silence and stillness are an invitation to move away from the noise and chaos that the world praises and to lead a more attentive and receptive life, because they are the habits that align with the trajectory of Lent, which is to get closer to God, and friends, with God we always win.